I'll introduce myself first. My name's Leslie. I work in financial education. I've worked for Mountain America for 13 years, so a long time. I started actually in their collections department right when I was in college, which was a super fun job. Who doesn't like to hear that they missed a bill, right? I was like, they're like, thank you for calling me. I missed hearing from you for a whole month. So that was a fun job. And then, but it put me through college. Also, my husband worked in collections too. It was a great motivator to stay in college because I knew I didn't want to do that forever. Not that I didn't love it and that they didn't love me, but it was a little hard. And then I went to their training department and was training the loan officers and tellers for a little bit. And now I work in financial education. So we go out and we do like these lunch and learn things on a bunch of topics. Have any of you guys been to the ones we've done before here? Which one did you come to? A bunch of them?
All the ones.
Oh, nice. How about you?
I've attended a couple of them.
Oh, cool. Well, feel free as we go through these to ask a question. You don't have to save any questions till the end. Today we're talking about fraud. They say fraud is so prevalent that if you haven't been a victim of fraud, just wait. I have got like numerous fraud, like protection things on my accounts, and I still have fraud happen to me and to my husband because I can't safeguard the other companies' data. And there's some ways that, and fraudsters get more and more clever, and they find ways around the things that we try to prevent them from accessing. So we're going to talk about, though, we're going to talk about some of these frauds and ways you can minimize it and hopefully eliminate it. We are getting better, and we'll talk about that as well. So, over 1.4 million reports of fraud were submitted in 2018. The reported amount lost was over 1.48 billion. So, is being a fraudster a lucrative business? Yes. Do they have motivation to try to find ways around the things that we keep putting in place to stop them? Absolutely. They keep coming up with new things. They probably will keep coming up with new things. So it's important that we kind of are always learning about their newest techniques because they're going to keep changing. And in Mountain America, we experience a lot of them. We hear a lot about them from our members. Our members are calling us all the time. So we're going to talk about the latest and the most prevalent forms of fraud. Can you guys think of, actually real quick, I'm going to break this down for you. So 20 to 29-year-olds, the highest percentage reported loss was 43%. 60 to 69-year-olds, the highest combined loss at 184 million, and 80 and older, highest average loss. So obviously no one's exempt from fraud. There are certain fraud schemes that target certain demographics more than others, but it's not like, oh, they're not going after young people because they know more about technology or anything like that. They're targeting everyone depending on the scheme. Can you guys think of any fraud schemes that you guys have heard of?
Lots of times they'll call elderly people and, make some sort of big hook to them, like, in a plea, like, oh, my family,
Yes.
something's going on traumatic and I don't have access, and
Yes, that's a very popular one.
Saying there's something wrong with your grandkids.
Yes.
You need to send money or.
That's, yes, very big one.
to get their emotions,
Yes, they're good. Yeah, they're good at it. Any other ones you guys can think of? Have any of you gotten that like IRS phone call? Oh, you need to call the IRS, right? We'll talk about that one. Did you have one?
I was going to say social media.
Social media, yes. We'll talk about social media. How they target people on social media.
And the Microsoft calling something's wrong with your computer.
Yes. Support fraud. Yes, exactly. So these are just some of the fraud schemes that you'll hear of. Imposter scams are like the really big ones, like they're calling and saying, oh, grandma, or someone say, I'm calling on behalf of your grandchild, or they're posing as the IRS, or have you guys got this one? It's like, oh, your car's warranty is almost expired. Yes, that one all the time, right? They're pretending to be somebody they're not, trying to get information from you. We'll talk about how a lot of these work. So these are the most common sources of fraud that we see. Card fraud is number one. Phone scams, tech support scams, online scams, for advertising, and then online scams for phishing, which also work into social media, and then friendly fraud. So with card fraud, so let's see, probably last year, so it was in 2018. Well, do you guys remember a few years ago there was like a big Target data breach and a big Home Depot data breach, like everybody heard it. But what you don't know is that a lot of times these are happening on a daily basis. Like if the company's huge, you'll usually hear about it. But even like, so this happened to Chili's. Chili's had a big data breach that anybody who had been to Chili's between like February and April of 2018 and used a card, their information had been compromised. But people didn't really hear about it because they do obviously try to minimize it, but it does happen incredibly often. And this is how it works. So you swipe your card at a terminal or you use it at a restaurant. Your card information is stored in the merchant's database. Fraudsters hack the database and obtain your information, and then they use it to, for whatever means, right, for counterfeit funds. So counterfeit fraud decreased though by 27% since 2016. Why do you guys, any idea why that might be? Hey, grab some lunch. Grab some lunch. Any idea why this is actually going down, card fraud?
Chips.
Yes, so the chip on your debit card. So how this works is before, when you would swipe your card, what it would do is it would store your card number with the transaction in their database. With the chip, what it does is it creates a token that matches a transaction and stores it in their database. So even if the fraudsters were to hack their database, they get this like encrypted information, this weird token that they can't use for anything. So that's why chip cards become so much more prevalent, is because it does obviously greatly minimize risk. Also, they started using the chip cards in Europe about 10 years before we did. So what that did was it focused a lot because they were having a hard time in Europe committing fraud on cards. They turned more to the United States, and then we really saw a big increase. So we were pretty slow to adopt this technology, but it's here now. So if you don't have a card that has a chip, we highly recommend you contact your financial institution and do get a chip on your card. Because this is one thing that you can be very, very safe with the information, but you can't really control an outside company's database or how well they're protecting it. Oh, so yeah, the swipe versus insert. So here's some solutions to card fraud. So yeah, have your chip, the chip in your card, mobile wallet. You guys know what mobile wallet is? If you have Apple Pay or Android Pay on your phone, so that you can just use your phone to pay for things. We have this question a lot. People are like, is mobile wallet safe? Like, just to have that on my phone? And mobile wallet functions very similarly to the chip card, is that it creates a token that matches a transaction. So, and also, the data that's stored in your card information that's stored on your phone, is it more protected than just a card in your wallet? It usually requires like your fingerprint or something to get into it, right? And that you don't have to have a fingerprint to get your card. So there are some more security features also with the mobile wallet. Next is setting up alerts or notifications. You can set up, so depending on, we'll talk about this, some of those security or identity theft protection programs, you can get alerts to which companies are having data breaches. We get them every week with companies which have been compromised. And so then you can just kind of maybe scan it and you can be like, all right, I don't have an account with these people, or I haven't been to Chili's, or I haven't been to Target in the span that their data was compromised. So you can do stuff like that if you want. And then card manager. So are any of you guys members of Mountain America? Well, all right. So some other financial institutions have this as well. On Mountain America, we have a card manager, which is, so for example, let's say you can't find your debit card. Now, if you're like me, I have like a purse and I have like a diaper bag, and I'm always like kind of going, sometimes I'll just put like I'll transfer like just my debit card, or I'll put my debit card in my pocket if I don't want to carry everything with me. So sometimes I'll be somewhere and I'll be like, ooh, I don't have my debit card. Did I lose it? or did I just leave it in my jeans at home? So I can just pull up my Mountain America app, go to the card manager, and I can essentially just turn my card off. So I don't know where it is. So let's say that I did drop it somewhere. Then whoever finds it, they go to use it, it's just not working. But let's say I go home and I do find it in my jeans. I go back into my app, turn it back on, and I can use it. I don't necessarily have to call Mountain America and cancel the card and then go into a Mountain America branch and get a new card when I do find it, or even if I don't. I can just turn it on and off when I want. I can also do that like when I'm traveling. Like so I went back east, we did a foliage tour of New England. Anybody done that? Highly recommend it, it was beautiful. But I don't usually, I only travel with like certain cards when I travel, but I accidentally did bring my debit card. So even though it was with me, I still turned it off, just in the event that maybe I accidentally lost it. So it's just an extremely handy feature that we have. So our next form of fraud is phone fraud. So we've got a video here for you.
Hello?
Hi, Grandma. It's your favorite grandson.
Oh, Jimmy!
Yeah, it's Jimmy.
It is so good to hear from you, honey.
How are you doing, Grandma?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm kind of in a tight spot right now, and I need your help.
Oh my goodness, what has happened?
Well, I'm in Spain.
Spain?
Yeah, and I got arrested.
Oh my, arrested?
Yeah.
How in the world did you get arrested in Spain?
It's a long story, Grandma, but I don't have a lot of time. They're only letting me have one phone call, and I need your help. If I can't pay the fine, they're going to put me in jail, Grandma.
Oh dear.
Can you help me?
Well, have you called your parents?
No, Grandma, I haven't. They didn't want me to come in the first place, and I don't want to worry them.
Oh, well, what can I do?
I need to pay the $2,500 fee, or they're going to send me to jail, Grandma. Jail! Will you help me?
Oh, my goodness, of course I'll help you.
Okay, so how this one works.
Hello?
Let's not.
Hi, Grandma. It's your favorite grandson.
Oh, Jimmy!
Jimmy.
Yeah, it's Jim.
So this one is targeted toward the elderly or older because, right, they're going to play on your emotions. This is actually a very prevalent, very popular one right now. So they just call, so you'll notice, like, he's like, hey, Grandma, I think this is your favorite grandson. And he waited for her to say, oh, Jimmy, right? So they're trying to get, yes, this is Jimmy. So they're calling who they can, see who bites. They play on what the victim says. Yeah, this is Jimmy. Crisis is presented. He's in Spain. Says, don't tell Mom and Dad. So how the solutions to this one? Get others involved. If you can trust but verify. So you can be like, okay, you can call their parents. You can call who's involved. Just verify that that's actually where they are. Ask more questions. And then be cautious about giving any time you're going to give your personal information online. Always be very cautious. Always try to find the most secure way you can do it, and don't just trust, especially if you're not sure. You can always call your financial, so let's say it is a legit situation, but you are worried about giving your information over the phone or online. You can always call your financial institution and ask them, like, what's the safest way that you offer for me to send my information? Because companies are always coming up with newer, more secure ways that you can send information. We have a MyExpress debit card. Do you guys know what that is? So it's kind of like a prepaid checking account. So it's like a debit card. You can go in and, like, for example, I have one that's like, my husband has one and I have one for our like discretionary expenses. So I can go online and I can put like $50 onto my card. So then I have a debit card and I can use that card for whatever I want, and then but once I've used over the $50, it just stops working. I don't get an NSF fee or anything like that. So if you need to give your information, or if I've ever needed to do, like if I buy anything online, I transfer money into my MyExpress debit card. I use that so that if anyone ever does obtain that information to that card, they can't overdraft it. They can't take more money. I don't usually keep a lot of money in that card anyway. So that's a good idea that you can use a safe, secure way. So sometimes financial institutions have ways that you don't even know of to send information that's more secure than others. Next is our tech support scams. Okay, we got another story here for you. These are all true stories, by the way, like taken from our members. With their permission.
Hello?
Good afternoon, this is Susie Crandall from Windows Technical Support. My badge ID is A453F2. How are you today?
I'm fine.
Great, so we've detected your computer missed a critical update, and it's made your computer vulnerable to cyber attack.
Oh no, what do I need to do?
Well, there's good news, I can fix it for you right now. Are you at your computer?
No, but I can be. Just a moment. Alright, I'm at my computer. What do I need to do?
Is your computer on?
Yes,
Great, so I'm going to send you a link to your email. What's your email address?
it is mgoodman@mail.com.
Okay, so I've sent the email. Can you let me know when you get it?
Okay, I got it.
Alright, so click on the link.
Okay.
So you should see a place to enter your name and your email address.
Yeah, I see that.
Okay, good. Go ahead and enter that in for me and then click join meeting.
Okay, I did that.
Great, I can see you there now. So now I need you to share your screen with me.
Alright, I'll be able to see what you're doing?
Yep, you sure will. Okay, Mark, so do you see the button that says share screen?
Yes.
Good, can you click on it for me?
Okay, I clicked on that.
Great. Now I need you to hover over the blue bar at the top of the screen that says you are sharing this monitor. Do you see the word assign?
Yes.
Alright, so click on that and then select pass keyboard and mouse control, then click on my name.
I did that, and a box popped up that asks if I want to grant control.
Good, so that means it's working. Click on grant control for me.
Alright.
Alright, I'm going to take control of your screen now and so that I can make the updates to your computer.
Okay, so how this one
Hello?
how this one works. So they call posing as support. First, companies don't just randomly call you for support. Wouldn't that, I mean, that'd be great, right? If like, they knew exactly when you needed it and they called you. You didn't have to sit on hold forever. Unfortunately, that usually is part of the process. But they'll call again because a lot of times people are having trouble with their computers. They do also, this one is targeted toward an older demographic because they know that they struggle with their computer a little bit more. So chances are when they call someone, be like, oh, are you having trouble with your computer? Be like, yes, I am. So they'll call posing as a technician. They'll use the technique they did to get control of your computer. So he granted her control of that. Now, even if he turned off his computer at that point, she would still have access to his computer. So turning it off does not work once that you've granted control. So then they can get into your computer and access any saved passwords that you might have. You know how you can save your password, your username and your passwords on your computer? So some people will advise to not do that. If you do choose to do that, be very careful that you don't ever grant access to anybody of your computer knowing that you have saved passwords. Even if you call the tech support company, you may want to, you can go and clear all your passwords. It's an option that you have to keep yourself more secure. So they get your information and then they use it, like they can go to your banking account information, they can go like your history, see what financial institutions you frequent most often, go to that website, your username and password will pop right up, and then they transfer the money out of your account. Yes?
So how would you clear your passwords?
So if you go into like your settings and it'll have a place where it says like securities and passwords depending on if you use like a Mac or a PC, and in there you have an option to clear your passwords. So yes, you can do that. There is another, like in settings on your internet, that you can clear as well. So Yes, there are some good
One more
options.
question.
Yeah, please.
There are what they call password vaults. Are those secure or not?
Yes, so password walls, like depending on, like, yes, so yes, they are secure. The answer is yes, they're secure, but always be careful no matter what, whenever you give authorization of, anyone else is using your computer. So yeah, so once you have those password walls in there, and you haven't given anyone access to your computer, they are safe, they are secure. Okay, so some solutions to this one. I talked about tech support will not call you. If you do receive a call, just call back on a known number. So maybe, you're like, I do need support, I had called this company. Some of them do have it like, hey, if you don't wanna hold for 15 minutes, we'll give you a call back. That's different. If you get a call within 15 minutes, it's probably most likely then. But if Microsoft calls you, you have been having a hard time with your computer, just be like, great, I will give you a call back. Go find the phone number on their website and call that number. Holding for 10 minutes is always better than having $10,000 stolen. Okay, so the next one is online scams, so advertising. So this is about, so how many of you guys are sold or bought anything on KSL? Yes. So KSL scams are extremely prevalent, and this is usually how they work. So we had a member, this is a true story, we got his permission to share it. He was selling hay on KSL. So he had someone contact him and was like, hey, I want to buy 5,000 pounds of hay. I know you're selling it for, I don't know that much about hay, I don't know the exact numbers, but he was like, I think I'm selling it for like 15,000. If that's not the right equivalency of hay, I apologize. But the amount was 15,000, I don't remember the pounds of hay. So he's like, but I'm going to send you a cashier's check, so guaranteed funds, for 20,000. But I'm sending a transportation company is going to come and pick up the hay. They're going to move it to Baltimore for me. So when you cash this cashier's check, if you could please just wire that extra $5,000 to this transportation company for me. So the member's like, okay, because he gets this cashier's check that looks like secured funds. So he goes into the branch and he explains what he's doing. And we've trained our employees that when they hear something like that, they'd be like, so they'll kind of verify, like, so this, you were selling it for 15, he's giving you 20, and wants you to send more money elsewhere. So they called our fraud department. Our fraud department verified the check that it was counterfeit. It was not verified funds. So then what we did is, so we put a stop on the check. Put a stop on the check. He did not wire any money. So then the member got this email. The funds is in the account, but they didn't allow her to withdraw funds, and her bank was trying to reach you on phone to confirm payment to know where funds came from. I would appreciate if you can call her back right now to let them know funds is for hay, and they should release money for her in her account. Please do what you can today, and if she can't get in her account today, I might be providing you a new account tomorrow, then for the funds to be resent there. Kindly treat as urgent. Okay? So then our member was like, called us, told us what was happening. So then we asked them to send this to this fraudster. We said, Mavis, we just talked to the bank and the funds are now available. Please call the bank at this number and give them the code word haymaker. Please call me if you have any problems. And the number was to the FBI field office in Baltimore. So when they called, they were like, nope. So they hung up. So obviously this can happen with not just like hay or anything. Anytime you're selling anything on KSL and they offer to pay you more money for it, but then ask that you wire money elsewhere, that is fraud. Especially if they really target cars on KSL. When we sold our car on KSL, I probably got like 5 of these emails. Ways that you can prevent this, what you can watch for. One, they're not going to call you. They're usually calling from out of the country. So they'll have, they're not going to be in state and they're not going to be able to pick it up themselves. They'll kind of have a weird story and they'll offer to overpay. They'll be like, oh, it's guaranteed funds, it's a money order, it's cashier's check. They'll usually have poorly written or bad grammar. and they won't meet in person, and they want the items shipped. So these are all very big red flags if you're ever selling anything on KSL. Any questions about that one? KSL, just being very careful. Okay. Next is online scam, so phishing emails. So I think it was like, it'll be 2 years ago from this Christmas. I don't know if you guys saw this, there was this email going around saying like, oh, newest generation of iPad, like $200. They did it like right before Christmas. So a lot of people were like, oh, that's an awesome deal. They were like, oh, we've got an overstock of iPads. You know, come buy our iPads. So people would go to this website, they'd select the iPad they want, and then they put in their card information. And then nothing would happen. It's exactly what the fraudsters wanted. So how it happens is they'll pose as a legitimate company. So the website, it looked pretty good. If you're not used to kind of looking for fraud, it looks semi-legitimate. They collect the payment, and then they use it to make unauthorized purchases. So they'll take, once you put your card information, they have it. And then again, they'll take it to go for unauthorized purchases. Ways you can prevent this one. Setting up alerts and notifications, again we talked about. Card manager, if you did, let's say you put your card information in, and you're like, ooh, like, when you put the information for this one, it was very weird. It was kind of like it just stopped. Like you didn't ask for like, let's say like a verification email had been sent or anything, kind of like what people are used to the normal online process. Even if it does say like, oh, we're gonna send you a verification email, if you get a funny feeling after you sent it, go into card manager, turn off that card, call your financial institution, cancel it. Always then make sure you're at secure websites. So how you can tell you're at a secure website is it'll start with HTTPS. So don't ever give your payment information, especially out if it doesn't have a secure website. You can install antivirus software that sometimes when you pull up certain websites, it will trigger your antivirus software that'll warn you it's a bad website. And then only go to trusted email links. So Mountain America's even had this happen, that like our members will get an email that it kind of looks like it's from us, and it'll say, oh, we're having a problem with your account. Click here, and so they click it, and it kind of looks like our website because they've created one like it. They put in their username and password, and then nothing happens beyond that. So then they just got your username and password from that. So so when they went to click on the link, it said like www.macu.com on the link is what it said. But if you hovered over it, it didn't click on it, it actually showed you it was a completely different web address. So so make sure you're hovering over those, only go to secured websites. Okay, and our last form of fraud. Friendly, not so friendly fraud. So here's the story here. So our member comes in, and they're like, there was an unauthorized charge from Maverick and Uber on my card. Somebody must have stole my information. We were like, okay, so we fill out an affidavit of fraud, we get them a new card, and then the member comes in the next week and says, I had an unauthorized charge from Maverick and Uber again. Now that's very strange because usually they can only obtain your information, like if they had gotten your card information, like they'd stolen it from a website or a data breach, if you change your card, they're not gonna have your card information anymore. So we were like, okay, so that's usually the first sign to us that somebody they know has gotten a hold of or has access to their financial information. So one of our employees in fraud went digging, they went back through, they contacted Uber, and they found out the name of the person who had hired this Uber driver. He called the member back, and we're like, do you recognize this name? He's like, oh yeah, that's my son. So their son was getting their information and then thinking that like, oh, they'll just think it's fraud again, but not realizing that's not exactly how it works. So the only problem though with friendly fraud is so it's usually someone you know, and the only way to get your money back is if you're willing to prosecute them. So a lot of times people don't do anything about this. So some solutions to it though. Well, first, how does it happen? You share your financial information. It can be like to grandkids, like, here, use my debit card. My grandma lives in like rural Utah, and all the time she'll like give us her debit card. Like, here's my debit card, go run and grab me milk or whatever. Now, hopefully it doesn't ever happen, right? But it's, maybe you got a rotten egg in there, rotten apple in those grandkids, and they steal your information. So they gain access, and then they use it for authorized purchases. So solutions: don't give your card or your PIN number to anybody. If you need someone to pick up something up for you, preferably use cash. The My Express debit, if you have that card, so a lot of times parents, they want to give like their kid, they don't want their kid carrying around a bunch of cash, or they want to be able to monitor their purchases. So a lot of parents use this My Express debit card to give to their kids, like, hey, this is for gas or this is for lunch money. Their parents can monitor their transactions, and the kid cannot overdraft their account. Once the money's gone, it's gone. So this can be a great way, instead of giving your kids access to your financial information, is just giving them their own My Express debit card. Also, if they have, let's say I give my teenage son My Express debit card. He cannot access my account from that card. Like if he has that card and he goes into the branch and asks a question, we won't give it to him. You can put his, like, it can be like I said, he can use it, he can have his name on it, but he's not gonna have access to your account. Okay, so avoid becoming a victim of fraud. Be skeptical, aware, safe, stingy, and cautious. So honestly, just trust your instincts. A lot of times when like fraud happens, you're like, oh, that was kind of strange. Trust your instincts. This trip I went on, like 3 weeks ago, what day is it? Yeah, like 3 weeks ago, we were obviously tourists, and this lady came up to us and she's like, I lost my phone, can I use yours? And my mom was like, yeah, that's fine. So my mom hands this girl her phone, and I can see, this girl's a hoodie, I can see like the outline of what looks like a phone in her hoodie. And so I was like, obviously kind of weird, so I just went right by her, and I was watching her, and I could tell she was kind of turning, and I was like, oh, you know what, my mom's phone is so weird, so I kind of snatched it from her, and I was like, tell me the number and I'll call it for you. And I was like, and she's like, you know what, actually, I'm fine. And she left. It was just a really, like, I've had people ask for my phone before, and I'll like let people use my phone, and it hasn't been a big deal. There was just something really strange about this interaction. I couldn't even tell you exactly what it was, but it was just kind of one of those things that my moment my mom gave her the phone, I was like, ooh, this just doesn't feel right. And obviously, and so when I went to go look, she was on the internet. She wasn't like calling anybody. And so, and then as soon as I like got close enough, she went to like Disney.com and like handed it, like she was kind of like, to be like, no, I'm not doing anything. So I don't know what she was trying to do or what, or I have any idea, but it was just a weird situation. And so I asked my mom, I said, do you have any passwords saved on your internet? Because I have a lot on my phone that I save. And my mom, who, bless her heart, is not technologically savvy, had absolutely none saved. So I was like, of all the phones for this lady to probably get a hold of, my mom's was probably the right one for her to get a hold of. But if it had been my guess, I would have assumed maybe that's what she was doing. So just be careful, be skeptical, be all these things. So as we leave, if you leave here today, these are the things we kind of want you to do to protect yourself from fraud. Make sure, A, that you have that chip on your card. Set up your mobile wallet, which is also as secure as that chip card. Set up alerts and notifications. You can set up, like other financial institutions have this as well. Mountain America, you can go and set up certain notifications. You alert me if a transaction over this amount happens. So you'll get one being like, oh, you had a transaction over $100. It'll immediately send me a text. You can set up for a bunch of different things. So if you know something is abnormal out of your spending habits, you can set those up. Mountain America also knows your spending habits. Like we've got certain algorithms that we use for fraud protection. So I've had this happen to me where I'll get a call before I even notice. Like I'll get a call from Mountain America and be like, are you in Georgia? And they'll be like, no. Like, okay, well, a transaction is trying to come through from Georgia. We're going to stop it. And be like, okay, thank you. That's happened to me twice. So like they'll know your patterns. They also know like Mountain America on our app, like you can set travel settings. So like when I was going back east, I put in there, I will be in these states from these dates, so that I wouldn't have to worry about getting those fraud phone calls, or they wouldn't stop my card or anything. Next, add your financial institution's phone number to your contacts. Just in case something happens and you do need to cancel your cards or for whatever reason you might need to contact them, sometimes, unfortunately, especially big companies will purposely try to like hide their number deep in their website to because they are trying to get you to find answers online. So you'll have to go through a few screens to actually find it, which can be extremely annoying if you really need it in an emergency. So Mountain America doesn't do that, but some institutions do. So just make sure you have their number and it's the right number, because some financial institutions, if they're especially big, they'll have a million departments. So like you might call one number, hold for 15 minutes, and they're like, oh, sorry, this is for auto questions, not for credit card. You need to call this number. So make sure you have the correct number in there. I'm sure that's not happened to anyone but me. Oh, okay. Beware of suspicious phone calls, and then update any antivirus on your computer. Those can be super easy to let lapse, right? You're like, oh, I'll get to it, but it actually is very important to keep those up to date. Do any of you guys have any questions about fraud? How to keep yourself safe from fraud? Any other fraud schemes you've heard of you have questions about? You've
mentioned Card Manager a couple times. Now, and this is something that Mountain America offers. Does that only work on cards that are through Mountain America?
Yes.
So you have to go to individual.
Yes, so that you can only like turn your cards on and off. My Mountain America's cards on and off.
And then can you explain a little bit more about the mobile wallet?
So you can set up your cards, like you can put your card information into, like if you have an Apple phone and you have Apple Pay, or do you have an Android? Yeah, so you have like Android Pay, so you can go in and you can put your card information in there, and then any place that like accepts, it'll say usually on the little kiosk that you pay on, it'll say like, accepts Apple or Android Pay, and then you can set your phone like and then like scan it in a way, and then it can pay through that service.
So if you lose your phone, what's to prevent somebody from using that and having access to everything?
Your thumbprint. So if you lose your phone and it's locked, they can't get into it without your passcode or without your fingerprint. So that Apple and phones, they are secure in that way that if they try to bypass your phone in any way, it'll usually trigger certain things. With Apple, for example, if you enter in your password, I think it's like 15 times incorrectly, because I have kids, so sometimes I'll get their mess, like, it'll warn me, like, 3 more incorrect times, and it'll erase my phone data. Anything I have on there data-wise, it'll just erase it. So, like, if they have someone trying to hack into it, especially, like, if it's through a means other than your PIN or through your phone, it will automatically trigger something and erase your phone data information. So, yeah, so they have... That's outside of Mountain America. That's like Apple and Android. Those are their security measures.
So,
yeah.
One other fraud thing that I've heard of quite a bit recently is mortgages. People doing that final transfer of the payment, that somehow that gets intercepted.
Yes, so certain financial institutions, and they'll call and say, there was a problem with the final payment, or there'll be a problem with your title, or there was money left over in your escrow. Yes, that's becoming a more popular one right now. Again, we say with those ones, you to directly contact the financial institution. You'd be like, oh, thank you for letting me know. Call your financial institution and verify. Good question. Did you have a question?
Yes. Well, all this is preventive, if I'm not mistaken. So what happens or what you have to do, let's say, God forbid, and you do get your identity stolen. Mm-hmm. What should one do?
So, like, if you log into your bank and you notice that you have a bunch of unauthorized purchases, the first step would be to call your financial institution. If you have Card Manager and you're able, or your financial institution offers where you can turn off your card immediately, do that first. If you don't, then call your financial institution immediately. What they'll do is then they will, so I'll tell you what Mountain America does, and a lot of financial institutions do something similar. Then what they'll do is we'll fill out an affidavit of fraud for you. You can do it on the phone, you can do it in a branch. We get the exact transactions that you believe to be fraudulent. Then we send it to our fraud department. They issue a temporary refund of all the money that they took. So it's in your account, because we know that can really throw people off. If you had a bill coming out and you had $600 worth of fraud happen, we don't want you to have to incur NSF fees or late fees on something that wasn't your fault. So we will, in fact, not a lot of companies do this, but Mountain America will issue a temporary refund while we're investigating it. We investigate it. If we find out it is fraud, because we've got ways that we know it's fraud. They investigate and find out that it's fraud, then you keep the money refund, and we pay for it. Like, we will refund the money back to you. So if though, for example, we research it and we find out like it's friendly fraud, like somebody you know used it, then we do take the money back, and then you have to go through a different avenue to prosecute them to get the money back. So that's how Mountain America investigates frauds. All companies do have their own policy, but they're all pretty similar. Is there a different form of fraud that you're also thinking about?
Well, I was just really more of an identity theft, where your really name, social security and stuff are stolen.
Gotcha.
How would you go about, or what would you suggest as a procedure to activate something to?
Yes, that's a great question. So yes, if your social security, your name, whatever is stolen, you can contact one of the 3 credit bureaus. So TransUnion, Equifax, or Experian. They all communicate, so you only have to do one. Let's say you use Experian, you contact them, let you know your identity is stolen. They will put a credit freeze on your credit, which means that, so you can put a lock or a freeze. So a lock is 30 days, a freeze is 30 days, and a lock is like 2 years, I believe. Do you know the exact number for lock? 2 years, yeah. So what a freeze is that, so let's say you had your name, your social security number stolen. You call the credit bureau, you let them know that, hey, this information has been stolen. They'll put a freeze on your credit. So then let's say that the fraudster comes to Mountain America. They're like, I want to get a loan out. They give me your information. When I pull up your credit, if it's a freeze, it'll say, you have to call this number to verify that it's the member. So I will call that phone number. So I worked at the branch years ago, so not everybody always had their cell phones with them. So sometimes it would be the member sitting across from me, and I'd have to send them home to call them on their home phone number, verify it was them, and then they could come back. Now with cell phones, a lot of times you can just call them on their cell phones. You have to call their information. If it's a lock, I can't even see it. Like, you come in to do a loan, I cannot even see your credit. If you want to do the loan, it is you're coming in and you're saying, okay, I want to do this loan in the lock, I can't do anything. You have to call the bureaus and have it removed. Yeah. And then if they stole your identity and they use they open up a bunch of different credit cards and stuff, you would have to, it's awful, but you have to contact each one of those bureaus. So hopefully the credit bureau will know who has obtained your credit and let you know, and then you can call those companies and have them shut down those cards. But it is a process. It's awful. It's not like, oh, you just do this one easy thing. It will take time and it will take energy, and it's a horrible process. So that's why preventive is huge. Any other questions about that? Yes.
Well, as a follow-up, what do you think of the LifeLock product that they are suggesting for the identity theft?
There's a lot of really good identity theft protection services out there. Mountain America offers one, but there are also lots of other great ones. They all work very effectively. Just make sure, because there are forms of fraud, of identity theft, fraud protection, and so you can just make sure, again, that's a secure company. You're going to a secure website to purchase it. You do your research on the company so you know it's not a fraudulent company. But they are, yes, they're effective.
Is yours, you said you're offering one, is it monthly fee or how does it work?
It can be a monthly fee. We offer a certain product called like a MyStyle checking. So if you have a certain amount of products with us, let's say like you have a MyStyle checking and a debit card and a credit card, then you get certain points each month, and you can use those points to buy identity protection, and so then you don't pay anything. Was that right? Oh, they just changed it. So say, I'm not in the branch anymore, so something is different.
Yes, I'm at the Daybreak branch. So they have the ID Protect, and then they have the ID Protect Plus or Premium. And they have different, so it's like the basic and then the more advanced one, and they have differences in what kind of coverage they give. So it's the difference between $2.95 a month and like $7 a month. And that can just automatically come out of your account. I have it, and it's seriously worth every penny because you get a couple different things, 24-hour account monitoring, 24-hour, 7 days a week credit monitoring. You get a report that's sent to you each month showing, okay, this is what your credit score was at the beginning of the month, this is what it is now, these are the people that pulled your credit, so you can look and you can say, oh, okay, well, I did open an account at Mountain America, so that makes sense why they pulled my credit, so it gives a super in-depth breakdown of what that looks like, so it's totally worth it.
But you can't use your My Style points for it anymore?
Not anymore.
Oh, bummer. Okay.
But, so like, between $7 and $9 a month, so it's worth it.
Okay.
And that's a lot cheaper than, there are some, like, programs and companies that do the same thing, if not a little bit less, and they charge between $30 to $50 a month, whereas with Mountain America, it's very minimal, and we do more than what those companies do, so.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you guys for coming. Grab some more